For a little moment, can you believe that your soul specifically selected your family before you were born, not in a chaotic, random manner, but with the accuracy of a master artist? After weighing the obstacles of this life, your soul made this decision. This is my growth area. Where I shall awaken is here. And yet, here you are, wondering why you were brought up in a household that seems like a battleground, and why your spirit seems to be eroded during your upbringing rather than strengthened. There, I've been. You've been there. However, the reality is that being born into a toxic family is not a punishment. You're not being haunted by karma. It's a gift. An enormous gift that changes people's lives and paradigms. But as of yet, I am aware that it doesn't feel that way. Let's explore this riddle together and find the deep knowledge that lies beneath your suffering. In order to receive more in-depth spiritual lessons, press the subscribe button on this channel. Families that are toxic are like fire, you see. They leave scars and cause pain and burning. But they forge as well. They make your soul as hard as steel. They push you to face the unvarnished reality of the human situation and peel away any illusions you may have had about life being simple or equitable. Toxic families are ideal for training chosen ones because their purpose is to disrupt cycles. Your purpose is not to lead a typical existence. To transcend is your purpose. Why though? How come your soul would decide to be born into a family that feels so dysfunctional? To begin, the poisonous environment you were born into is not fortuitous. Ancestral. It affects generations. It's the collection of unresolved issues, unconscious tendencies, and unspoken realities that have been passed down through your family. My friend, you were created to prevent it. Consider that for a minute. Let it soak in. You were never meant to blend in. You were created to stand out, to overcome, to cure not only yourself but also the generations that preceded and will follow you. That is what qualifies you as the one. But here's the hard part. To break a cycle, you have to experience it. What you do not understand, you cannot heal. You cannot overcome the things you have not experienced. In order to teach you how to swim, you were put in the middle of the storm, not to drown. In order to awaken, not to suffer. Could you tell me what you see when you look at your family? Are you witnessing control, manipulation, neglect, or anger? The more profound query now is, where do you perceive that same energy within yourself? Since toxic families actually do more than just hurt us. They are a reflection of ourselves. They reveal aspects of us that we are too scared to confront. For this reason, it is a gift. It is because of the dysfunction in your family that you have the chance to see yourself, heal yourself, and change yourself. And you change the entire family as you go. Don't romanticize the suffering, though. Let's not act like it's simple. Not at all. Among the most difficult choices a person can make is to be born into a toxic family. It takes tremendous bravery, tenacity, and resiliency. It means having to deal with betrayal, rejection, and occasionally even abandonment. The problem is that you are breaking the cycle each time you confront it, each time you decide to react with compassion rather than rage, understanding rather than condemnation, and love instead of hatred. Consider this. What if you began to view your family as your best teachers and quit arguing with them? What if their poisonous behavior was a show of their suffering rather than your value? What if they didn't know how to love themselves instead of you, which is why they couldn't love you the way you deserve? This is the location of the shift. When you begin to view your family members as wounded beings trying to make the most of what they have, rather than as the adversary. You start to unlock the gift when you quit asking, why are they hurting me? And start asking, what are they teaching me? And the fact is, you don't have to bear the poison in your family. It's a call to recovery. You're being asked to remember who you are in spite of their expectations, projections, and suffering. It is your call to assume your role as a chosen one. The hitch, though, is that you cannot repair your family. Only you can heal yourself. And when you do that, everything changes in a cascading manner. I have something really personal to discuss. During my childhood, I believed that I could improve my family if I was strong enough, successful enough, or good enough. I could spare them. Nevertheless, The more I tried, the more I understood that I wasn't meant to save them. I was there to save myself. Breaking away from the patterns that were holding me back was my task. Something extraordinary occurred as I was doing it. The dynamics of the family started to change because I changed, not because I made them. This is the strength that comes with being selected. There's no need to battle the darkness. You only have to shine your light. What does it mean to shine your light in the face of darkness, though, if I may ask you this? Does loving oneself mean that no one else does? What does it mean to choose calm in the face of chaos? You have to provide answers to these questions. You will be led on your path by these questions. This is the most wonderful part. Everything transforms the instant you choose to view your family as a blessing rather than a curse. Stepping into your power occurs when you begin to embrace your path instead of rejecting it. As a matter of fact, you were not created to be broken by a toxic family. In order to rise, heal, and awaken, you were born into a toxic household. Now let's take a closer look. As you can see, when a soul is surrounded by chaos, dysfunction, and pain, something miraculous occurs. Not only do poisonous family traumas leave scars, but they also create opportunities, gaps that allow light to enter, opportunities to awaken consciousness, creations for change to start. However, this is a paradox. You must face the hurt before you can see the gift. The majority of folks become stuck at that point. The agony is resisted by them. They are opposed to it. They flee from it. But it is impossible to escape suffering, particularly the type that comes from family. You have to confront it directly. Consider the scars you have from your kinship. Perhaps you were so frequently criticized that you started to question your own value. Perhaps you felt that your voice was unimportant because you were so completely ignored. It is possible that you were so severely regulated that you lost the ability to trust yourself. Alternatively, you may have learned to associate love with performance, approval, or sacrifice because the love you desired was conditional. They are actual wounds. They caused pain. They sculpt you. They are the impetus behind your waking, nevertheless. Since every wound has a lesson to teach, there is a tale behind every scar. Additionally, there is always room for improvement. Would you mind sharing your feelings when you consider the suffering your family has caused you? Are you feeling sad, angry, or resentful? And now for the more profound query. What do those feelings teach you about yourself? The purpose of selected ones is not limited to healing their families, you see. Their purpose is to recover. And the healing process starts when you understand that the pain you've experienced is not personal. Their scars, anxieties, and limitations are the focus. However, at some point, you assimilated it. You made it all about yourself. The suffering they endured became your own. Distancing yourself from the narrative your family has crafted for you is the first step. The effort to recover your identity, value, and strength. How, though? When you have deep wounds that seem to be ingrained in your DNA, how do you recover? What are some ways to overcome ingrained patterns that have been carried down through the generations? Being conscious is the first step. Consciousness that your worth is not reflected on how your family treated you. Being conscious that you are not doomed by their poison. Awareness that your purpose is to break the cycle, not to perpetuate it. However, being aware is only the beginning. You start to take responsibility for your own healing, not for their behavior, and that's when the true change occurs. Allow me to share a fundamental truth with you. You set yourself free the moment you stop waiting for your family to change, to apologize, to validate you, or to love you because you deserve it. Given the harsh reality, some people will never change. Not all wounds will ever be recognized. Apologies won't always be offered. It's okay. Your recovery is independent of them. You are the one who must heal yourself. Just because you deserve peace, rather than because your family deserves it, consider what it would be like to forgive them. Can you imagine what it would be like to let go of your anger, resentment, and bitterness? Not because it justifies their actions, but because it relieves you of the burden they bear. Ignorance is not the same as forgiveness. There is no condoning involved. I will no longer allow your actions to define me. I will no longer allow your pain to become my pain. I will no longer allow your toxicity to dictate my life. This is when the gift comes into focus. For you awaken as you heal. It reminds you of your strength as you let go of the suffering. The wholeness of who you are emerges as you break free from your family's patterns. But let's not mince words. The procedure is confusing. It takes time to heal. It is not easy to awaken. Sometimes the dysfunction in your family will feel like too much to endure. You'll have times when you wonder if you're capable of ending the cycle. And during those times, I want you to keep in mind that you were picked for this precisely because you are capable, not because it's simple. You are here to turn sorrow into purpose, suffering into strength, and wounds into wisdom, not because you deserve to suffer. Let me pose this question to you. What if your greatest strengths are actually the scars your family has left behind? Say you learn to love yourself as a result of the rejection. Let's say you learn to be independent from the neglect. Imagine learning compassion from the suffering. The alchemy of the selected is this. We take what was dark when we were born and transform it into light. We use the suffering we have been given to give it meaning. Our inherited cycles are transformed into liberation, not only for ourselves, but also for all those who follow us. You see, your healing is about more than just yourself. When you recover, your entire family is healed. By achieving freedom, you demonstrate to others that it is possible. By taking charge of your own power, you allow others to take control of theirs. For this reason, toxic families are a gift, not because the suffering is unwarranted, but rather because it serves a purpose, and that purpose is waking itself. So let me ask you this. How would you see your family differently if you knew that their toxic behavior was the direct cause of your metamorphosis? What would you do if you understood that every wound was an invitation to develop? Because, in actuality, your family does not victimize you. You are what is causing them to change. Breaking their patterns is your goal. You are not here to repeat them. You are here to transcend their misery, not to be defined by it. And that is the present, my friend. Now that we have discovered the reason behind the suffering, let's move on to the future. Realizing that you are a chosen one is insufficient. It's not always simpler to deal with toxic family members, even if you know they were a gift. Accepting responsibility for your life and your recovery is the first step toward the serious work. Making the decision to liberate yourself, not just physically, but also emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually, is when the true transformation occurs. What does freedom mean to you? Let me ask you, not the kind of freedom that comes from cutting ties or walking away. That's just the surface. I mean the kind of freedom that comes from not responding to their words, deeds, or opinions. The sort where their toxicity no longer confines you, their dysfunction no longer defines you, and their opinions no longer govern you. The first step on this path of liberation is to make the powerful decision to live in accordance with your truth, rather than in response to your family. But the thing about breaking free is that it's not about fleeing. You can relocate across the globe and still have the scars of your family. Because it is internal, not external, chains that tie you. They are the internalized beliefs, inherited patterns, and self-perceptions of your value and identity. Knowing the habits, beliefs, and tales that are holding you back is the first step on this route. What family patterns do I unwittingly perpetuate in my own life, you ask? What self-perceptions did I inherit from their behavior or words? What narratives about my identity am I constructing as a result of their treatment of me? Perhaps, for instance, you were raised in a household where affection was provided only when you fulfilled their demands or accomplished something. And you now believe that your value is dependent on your accomplishments, and you are continuously aiming for perfection and seeking approval from others. It's also possible that you were raised in a household where your opinions were disregarded, your voice was unheard, and your feelings disregarding. Presently, you are hesitant to express your opinions, questioning your gut and keeping your truth to yourself. The things that bind you to the toxic members of your family are these tales, routines, and beliefs. Additionally, you cannot escape them until you recognize them. Awareness, however, is only the first step. Healing is the next stage. Additionally, healing is not about self-improvement. It's important to keep in mind your pre-wounded self. It involves removing the stories and conditioning layers in order to get back in touch with your true self. You should know that healing is not a straight line. It's disorderly. It doesn't feel comfortable. It's a process of starting over and unlearning everything you believe to be true about yourself. 3 things are also necessary for it: self-discipline, self-compassion, and self-love. It all starts with loving yourself. The radical act of choosing oneself when no one else does is what it is. It involves respecting your needs, boundaries, and value, regardless of how your family has treated you. Realizing that you are sufficient in your current state, without the need to prove anything to others, is what it is. Self-love, however, is not always simple, particularly if you have been socialized to feel unworthy. In this situation, self-compassion is essential. It's acceptable to feel hurt, and self-compassion is the soft voice that says it. It's acceptable to be upset. You don't have to do it flawlessly, and it serves as a reminder that healing is a process rather than a final goal. It's acceptable to not have everything worked out. And self-control comes next. Since healing is, let's face it, a difficult process. Even when it's painful, uncomfortable, or seems like nothing is changing, you have to take care of yourself every day. Even when your ingrained habits are beckoning you back, it demands that you make decisions that are consistent with your best self. Question for you: if you lived each day believing that you were deserving of love, respect, and happiness, how would your life look? Which would you choose? What limitations would you impose? Which relationships are you willing to let go? Because that is the key to liberation. You can't change your family. It has to do with altering yourself. It involves letting go of the persona they have assigned you and embracing your true self. The deeper reality, however, is that escaping does not entail leaving your family. If it's not absolutely essential for your well-being, it doesn't mean ignoring them or refusing to talk to them. To break free, one must disengage from their energy, expectations, and stories. It means loving them without obligation, but from a place of wholeness. It entails accepting them for the flawed, injured, and flawed people they are, and making the decision to overcome rather than be overcome by their suffering. The most exquisite aspect is that you transform into a mirror as you recover. You let your family know what's feasible. You demonstrate to them the possibility of change, freedom, and love. Even though they might never say it, your recovery will motivate them. You will awaken something in them that they may not be able to articulate. Why don't you become the best, most complete version of yourself for your family instead of trying to fix them? Even if the change takes years or lifetimes to manifest, what if your healing is the very thing that sows the seed of change in them? The chosen ones are on this path. It's a difficult journey. It's not an exciting career path. It is a path of transformation, emancipation, and purpose, though. I want to leave you with this because we are nearing the end of our journey together. You are not doomed by the toxic members of your family. It is your practice area. You are forged by the fire itself. You grow your soul in this soil. Every time you decide to overcome it, to heal, or to love yourself despite their dysfunction, you are living out your destiny as a chosen one. You weren't accidentally born into a toxic family. You were born into it because you were intelligent enough to learn from it, courageous enough to heal it, and strong enough to overcome it. And never forget that you are not alone on this journey. Like you, there are millions of chosen ones out there who are rewriting their destinies, healing wounds, and breaking cycles. Truth, love, and compassion are the cornerstones of the new world we are building together. Last but not least, consider this. What kind of life would you build if you fully embraced your role as a chosen one and stepped into your power?